one bad hire can take the entire team down. Technical fit is absolutely paramount. After technical fit, there's a culture fit lens that we have a very strong resonance with the HR team on.
I would say that it's futile and it's suicidal for business leaders not to pay attention to that.
How do you bridge this gap of Chinese whisper that's usually happening in the organization?
But that's the trade-off we are willing to pay in order to uphold one of our propositions that we believe in talent mobility.
I don't get looked at as, hey, I have attrition in my team. If people from my team are finding better opportunities, there are significantly more exposure, more responsibility, etc. I'm looked at as a talent exporter. I don't get looked at as a guy who's losing his team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty evolving situation, and I know that it's very hard to find a candidate talent meets all the boxes, checks all the boxes, particularly in these times.
So hi everyone, welcome back to Decoding Mindset. Today we have a very interesting setup where we're going to understand the mindset of teams within an enterprise organization. So I'm joined by Amit and Subhasis. Very interesting conversation is going to be because Amit represents the business team at an organization called Schneider Electric, and Subhasis represents the HR function supporting the unit which Amit is coming from with the same organization. We'll start quickly. How are you and how are you feeling? What's going on at Schneider? What's keeping you busy?
Yeah, we're all good. Excited to be here and some of the interesting topics we have lined up for the conversation. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, super excited. Thanks for having us.
So help viewers understand a bit about the organization, the rules. So we're starting this up with understanding about their work. The views here, which are going to be presented solely the guests present here and has nothing to do with the organization. The intent is clear. It's to understand how organizations at that scale work, how leaders like yourself actually, what kind of challenges you go through, how do you navigate those. So we'll start with understanding the overall setup, your work within the organization, bit of background about both of you. All right, we'll start with Amit.
Sure. So both Subhasis and I belong to Schneider Electric. So as you might know, this is an electrical equipment manufacturer. It's been around for like 200 years. Wow. It's a very old, very large and very prestigious company. We have one of the top 3 players in the industry. And I belong to a team called Schneider Digital within the entire Schneider Electric. We are the digital arm of the organization. We look after our digital assets, the development of our digital products, and the custodian of our application setup, application infrastructure and whatnot, right? So that's what I do at Schneider, and it's an exciting place to be. We are currently undergoing a massive transformation in the age of AI, in the age of technology. So very, very interesting work lined up, and happy to be here.
A bit about what are digital assets, bit about more on-ground view of it.
Sure. So any company, once it grows to a size that we are in, cannot operate without technology. Technology is the backbone of everything we do. Starting from a very simple sale order acceptance to shipping a product, collecting money, all of this is underpinned by technology. And if you look at the waves of technology that have come through, right? In the 60s and 70s, there's this new term called ERP that came to be. So Schneider was one of the first companies to adopt the ERP technology. Then the wave of internet technologies came in. We were the first one to get into a digital setup where we offer our products and services through the internet to our customers. So Schneider Digital was at the forefront of all of this. It was called by different names at different points in our history, but this is the main organization that has driven all of these transformation for Schneider Electric.
Sure. And a bit about your background,
Sure. Work. So I joined this company about 3 years ago. I was working in management consulting setup before that, driving cloud and digital transformation, and worked with Big 4 companies for like 7-8 years. And I was a programmer before that. So I've spent all of my professional life in technology. And after joining this company, I've worked as a business partner for driving transformation of the India business within Schneider. And then the last 1 year, I have put into operations of Schneider Digital. So it's been quite an exciting journey, and every day new problems, new challenges. And it's a very different setup that you have from a regular corporate or a regular services organization. So privileged to be a part of it.
Well, great. How about you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I represent the HR side of our organization. So I head HR for, as Amit mentioned, Schneider's global R&D and Schneider Digital organization in India. We have a really strong, mature workforce, and me and my team are engaged in supporting these organizations on hiring, retaining, engaging talent in these really transformational times. So really excited. This is my second year at Schneider, but before this I've spent a lot of time at Disney and Amazon, both in India and in North America.
Wow. So I'm going to come to something that I'm really excited about. We have first time that we have HR and business coming together under a roof, and I've kind of locked this room so that you cannot get out. And we're going to record all the conversations that these teams, but we're going to look at it from the overall perspective as to how these two verticals actually interact with each other at any organization, right? Yeah. So to begin with, what is one thing that you think the other side of it gets completely wrong more often than not, and you cannot really say it in a professional setting?
Yeah, I think this, it makes by the way, we find ourselves in rooms like this, so it's not too different, but I think the interesting tension that is there between business and HR is actually by design, right? Like that's why HR is there, which is to bring all the people side of the equation into the business, because it's a business of people. And while we are serving customers, Amit and team are serving internal and external customers, we serve the people in these organizations. So I don't know if there is, things that they get wrong, but we make sure to remind that side of the equation. It's about people's motivation. It's about people's feeling safe, people's feeling like they can bring their true selves to work. And that actually helps unleash and unlock all the innovation and transformation that Amit and team are driving. So that's how I would characterize that.
Sure.
Not too controversial, but that's exactly why
we're going to go deep.
So the tension that you speak of, right? Yeah. That's by design, and that's a system of checks and balances that we have, so that ultimately, as Subhasis mentioned, people are our greatest asset, and to make sure that their well-being is looked after, their career aspirations are looked after. That's why we have this dual setup, wherein while people report to us, the HR has a massive stake in making sure that their aspirations are met. So, being that said, and this is a problem that we have with our customers. My customers are the business people, the folks who go out and sell, manufacture products, right? They want things done at a lightning pace. Yeah. I can't deliver as quickly because technology doesn't move that fast. Yeah. Similar tension is what I have with my HR team as well. I want people promoted fast. I want people sent for this training. I want this done, right? And they have to pump the brakes on me and say that, no, look, we have to do it in a structured manner. We have to do it in a way which benefits the people. Many times what we try to do is, get people to, give the 110%, if I have to use that term politically correctly. But that's when the HR team is there to pump the brakes there to make sure that while you will get a small, near-term advantage by doing this, at the long term, this is going to hamper your team's motivation, performance, etc. Sure. So the tension is by design there and needs to be there. This is my opinion.
Sure. In any such conversation, Amit, when you're there, who do you trust more? Your business team will, and when there is any contradiction in a conversation, will business tell the truth, or do you trust HR more to tell the truth?
I don't think it's that simple, right? It's not like one side tells the truth and the other side doesn't. There's multiple aspects of the truth that all of us need to be cognizant of. While the need to get things done quickly is true, but also not letting people burn out in the way is also true. So we all speak multiple sides of the truth. So that's why I would not characterize that I am speaking truth and HR is not, and the other way around. I'd say we have our own priorities, and we speak the truth that's aligned to our priorities.
Is that usual? Because see, what I've seen in organizations, to be honest, right, working with multiple various kind of stage of ventures, enterprises, usually it's difficult. It's very difficult to actually trust the other vertical. What I want to understand it is from the perspective of where do you see or one should actually see when dealing with HR teams per se versus a conflict within the team. So for example, someone in your team would be saying something where they're saying that HR is becoming a blocker, right? I'm looking at that conversation. Take me through what goes in your mind then. right? Or how should actually that piece be navigated where your team is saying something else versus HR is completely kind of going opposite that? So what goes in your mind there?
Well, thankfully, I've not had many such instances where my team is saying something and HR is completely saying something opposite.
Any previous organizations anywhere?
Well, that's the difference between all of the previous companies that I've worked for and Schneider Electric. We have a very powerful HR team, very empowered HR team, and that's exactly why we score very high in terms of our satisfaction. If you go to Glassdoor and open Schneider Electric, you will find our scores are much better than any other companies that are out there. So that is something that I've seen it's worked differently. HR has a real stake, has a real power, and I think that's the thing I think it's pretty good.
What should one do actually? So what should one do in case there is a conflict, right? Maybe from any of your previous experiences, how should one navigate that as a people manager or a people leader?
So conflict, if there is workplace conflict, which is differences in opinions on how to get things done, we always look at the values that we have. Right? The values are there exactly for us to guide in these situations like this. And we have our impact values where it talks about respect for individual, but also makes sure that we have an innovative mindset. We get things done in a way that's working for everybody. So you look at values for guidance, and then you try to find a middle ground where everybody wins. That's my first preference, is to find a win-win situation where everybody wins, everybody's voice is heard. But if there are compromises to be made, then we look at the values and we look at the situation and how to achieve it.
Got. So coming to like connecting it with what he said, right? A lot of times the HR, how often do you think HRs would actually really get stuck something which actually is needed versus a lot of times just getting things stuck for the sake of doing that, right?
Yeah.
Because that is something that's very popular about HR teams.
Right. Yeah, I think, look, it's a collaborative process, right? We are a large company, as Amit mentioned. There are global policies. We are governed by a lot of fundamental, foundational principles, right? Now, when it comes to interpreting those principles, that's where our collaboration is super helpful. For example, just coming to work and just giving simple, return to work has been a big. There's obviously global guidelines. We are actually we are a hybrid company even before the pandemic. One of the things that really stood out for me when I joined Schneider is it didn't go into being hybrid because of pandemic. It was always been hybrid, right? Now, how do you interpret that in day to day? Because there's a global policy. We see that there are people who may not be coming exactly 3 days a week. Now, do I go and be punitive on those people, or do I understand the context more, right? So where the tension is there is for us to come together and see what's unique, what is contextual about that situation, and then we resolve it. For example, there are some roles which actually we say it's okay that they didn't come for 3 days that week because there's something else going on. At the same time, we also make sure that we follow this, in this example, we follow these principles broadly. In other words, if somebody just didn't show up for a month, it's not okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we do this collaboration so that we follow these guidelines. At the same time, we take into account the context from the ground, which is why I loved what Amit said, is that every situation has multiple truths. So we try to kind of taking a picture from various angles so that you get the best picture, best in the frame. And that's where I think our collaboration, our partnership, and actually debate. We debate a lot.
Yeah.
We don't agree.
Yeah.
We don't agree on all these things, and the debate actually makes the decisions richer. So I think that's how I would portray it.
So I'm looking at it more from having a policy, but also being agile, being more people-centric, trying to understand people, but at the same time, the policy should actually be guiding on ground.
That's it. I think to your point, if you ask me, hey, like sometimes we get in the way, right? Sometimes there's a policy or there's a process, and sometimes HR gets the bad rap for just slowing things down, right? Sometimes we do by design, like I said, to get over the short-term advantage for the long-term upholding of some of our principles. But at the same time, it's important that I'm listening to customers like Amit and asking, do I really need to just throw this policy at him, or can I adapt here? Whether it comes to hiring or growing a talent and developing a talent, we can figure out solutions that doesn't really flout our processes, but at the same time serves his unique needs.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to constantly learn as HR teams. Even though you can always say, that's not a part of what we do at Schneider, but I don't think it's enough. It's important that we listen to
And it's also about having a seat at the table, right? No decision gets made in silos. They have a seat at our table, we have a seat at their table.
Yeah.
And we take decisions collaboratively. Every decision is debated, pros and cons are evaluated, approaches are discussed, and then a direction is taken.
Sure. Take me through. So it looks like, of course, because of the scale, because of the kind of age of the organization, the processes are much matured here. But I'm sure you might have faced those instances without, of course, naming the organization. If you can help our viewers also understand some cases where this agility that we're talking about is absolutely more often than not on paper, right? So I'm sure you might have come across, for example, the same example that you gave, right? At startups, we do say that we have hybrid policies, but the processes are so, or let's say work from home is allowed, but sometimes the processes are so messy that you can't really afford to have your people work from home. You need to actually get them to office, get the things fixed, right?
Right.
So how has those situations, maybe your experiences with any of the businesses previously, where you think the policy was being too exploited in a way, or kind of the flexibility was being exploited, or agility was being exploited, or any experiences in your case on where it was being too fixed, the policy was too fixed, and the HR is just saying that it is agile, but it's actually not. Just help us understand, see if you can recall some instances, what happened, how did you navigate that, right? At the end, the viewers would want to understand how, when they're facing these issues in their organizations, how should one actually go about solving this? Any good examples from Schneider, or any instances that you've faced such contradictions?
Maybe I can take that, right? So a simple thing such as performance evaluations at the end of the year, right? In many organizations that my friends have worked for, or some of the organizations that I might have worked for, I don't think I ever got into a conversation with HR at the end of the year to say this is how we will do performance evaluation. I don't think I solicited input from the HR, or HR sought input from me. But whereas in companies like ours, it's a joint process, right? Everybody has inputs. Every person gets discussed. Every person's strengths and weaknesses from multiple angles are discussed, and HR and business are equally responsible for making sure that those inputs are vetted, and those inputs are properly shared without any bias. So that's one very strong difference in the way we've collaborated compared to a lot of other stories that I've heard from my friends, which is it's just one person decision, or HR is just a rubber stamp there, whereas this is a completely different setup.
So are you saying kind of delegating, or kind of having HR take decisions where they're supposed to take decisions, and business should not really get into such decisions?
Not really. I'm saying the opposite.
Okay.
I'm saying that decisions that affect the employees should be taken jointly.
Right.
Multiple inputs should be sought. And it should be, more often than not, in situations like this, bias tends to creep in. It could be bias, recency bias, like I've done well in the last couple of months, whereas I was not doing so well 10 months ago. So that recency bias should not affect the performance evaluation of the individual. So the HR reminds us that, look at it from a 360 degree. Do not just go by what you have seen the last couple of weeks. That's a very powerful input. And I don't think I've seen this happen in many organizations.
So you're saying where HR is kind of taking a decision without knowing the entire context, they should rather be actually making business more aware about about the right kind of data.
Correct, because they are well equipped with that. Our HR folks are certified. They understand how their processes work. They understand what the impact is, right? So they act as our checks, basically, to make sure that we are taking the right decision. We are enabled to take the right decision.
But yeah, just to kind of look at it the other way around, right? Like sometimes, a lot of times, it seems like HR has figured it all out, right? But it's not, right? There are a lot of times there are really fascinating inputs that comes from business, right, or Amit's organization, which actually makes our practices richer. I'll give you an example. We're continuously trying to improve our recruiting process, not technology, but recruiting process. How do we hire? Who do we hire? And we are constantly looking at it. So one such initiative that we ran last year was to kind of make our interview process more structured, right? Now that we as an HR team came up with that, but when we came with that idea to Amit and his organization, they shared some really interesting inputs on what will work in this process, what will not work, what will slow things down, so it became a very interesting discussion, which we had totally not incorporated.
Interesting.
And then we incorporated some of that and kind of came to a final product, which actually is serving the business, but we learned a lot in the bargain.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I think I think our job, I constantly tell my team or any HR teams that don't act as if you figure it all out, and then don't feel that the business doesn't get the people side. Businesses are made by people and by strong leaders, and they have strong instincts about people as well. Just because they're in the business doesn't mean that they don't have people instincts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we must remain open to listening to that.
What I hear from this is to continuously learn from the other teams in order to kind of fill in where you don't know what's the right thing to do.
Complementary strengths, right? Just understand
So
what.
you also mentioned about employee experience,
Yeah.
right? And let's say psychological safety, how
Yeah.
good they're feeling. When you actually bring this out to a business leader, right? Do you think they really, and I'm not talking about the organization per se here, but if we kind of look at it by and large from the world perspective, do you think a business leader who has focus on how much revenue do I need to make, what KPIs I've hit, would they really understand employee experience and psychological safety? They would rather come back and say that, hey, this person not really performing well. Have you had such incidents? How do you react to such cases at a manager level or at a team level?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's futile and it's suicidal for business leaders not to pay attention to that, because that will define successful organizations from the ones that will not succeed. Because today's workforce is really aware of what they need and what they want.
Yeah.
And for any business leader to say, I don't really worry about whether my teams are feeling safe or not, whether my teams are feeling, like their well-being is taken care or not, is very dangerous, right? So I think I'll start by that. So I think the business leaders also have KPIs, business goals, but it's primarily driven by a group of people who must feel like they're aligned and their business leaders have their back and so forth, right? That said, I think that's where we play a role in incorporating these elements into the business processes, right? There should be signals, mechanisms that helps us get the data and insights to our business leaders, like any other KPI, saying, hey, this is how your organization is feeling now. Because that is what the business leaders are looking at us for. And we must do that so that the business leader says, okay, the pulse of my team is not looking good now or looking great now. And one of the things at the cost of bragging about Schneider is that our leaders are incredibly aware of this. And in fact, some of the leaders that I work with in Amit's organization, they're absolutely in tune with this need of the organization.
What do you do when a leader is not really, so no one would say that I don't care,
Right.
But what do you do when you actually get signals that this particular leader does not really care?
Yeah, so which is where data comes in, right? So it's data and anecdotes.
Sure.
Not everything is quantifiable through a bunch of numbers. That's where we have conversations with employees, people managers, and then bring those insights in a way that we can present to our business leaders and saying, hey, look at there's something coming here. We're getting a signal here. Let's talk about it.
Sure.
I think I'm going to add on that, and I fully agree with Subhasis here that it's suicidal for any business leader to not know what the pulse of the team is. The way you treat your employees is the way they treat your customers. So if you go chasing after KPIs without looking after your employees, you're going to fall off a cliff very soon. And we are very, very aware of this. And this is, in fact, where we don't have any friction between HR and business at all. Employee well-being is a top priority. And once employees know that you are there, you got their back, they'll go above and beyond. Your business KPIs will take care of themselves. So that's the philosophy that we subscribe to and fully agree with what Subhasis just said.
Amit, a follow-up question on that, right? So specifically, we're talking about digital transformation and we're talking about KPIs with the business. Obviously, when you kind of plan things like hiring or talent within, capability is an important piece, right? What is it that you're looking at? So when any of these things, right, when it comes to, let's say, capability or let's say your operational model, when it comes to the HR, right, there's a different world altogether, how they actually look at it. And I think a lot of it is what AI is also changing. What do you think is the right way to navigate this and get your requirements clear to the HR team when it comes to talent needs or let's say even the skill set or capability?
There's two aspects to this. For driving any transformation change, we have to look at capability and attitude, right? I mean, we've had instances wherein we have found superstars in a field, in a particular technical field, but we put them through multiple rounds of processes and HR team has rejected them saying that, no, this guy is not a fit as per our organization's values and culture and whatnot. So we respect that decision because we fully understand that one bad hire can take the entire team down, right? So during the hiring and sourcing process itself, we have a built-in set of activities which call out individuals that are not a culture fit. Technical fit is absolutely paramount, right? But after technical fit, there's a culture fit lens that we have a very strong resonance with the HR team on. And we take care of that. So once we get the right people through the door, then transformation becomes easy, right? They have to be technically competent, they have to have the right attitude, they have to manage the change in a proper way. Change management is very, very important. So getting the right talent in the door is the first step.
But how do you get an HR or a talent acquisition team, particularly, let's say in case of the first few rounds, or let's say even if someone is not really performing well, they're not performing well. How do you have an HR understand the technical nuance of that this is specifically what we need and is not really fitting in? Forget about the culture. I know that's with them, right? But skills and capabilities with you. How do you bridge this gap of Chinese whisper that's usually happening in the organizations?
So talking about individuals that are a part of the organization that are not performing well.
Or let's say when you're planning to hire new people, this is specifically what I need versus when you get a profile to interview, there are a lot of differences there. So, from both the angles.
So I'll talk about the first part, which is individuals that are a part of the organization. And if there is a deterioration of performance or fitment issues that have come in, so we have a joint review of how the individual has performed over the years. Right? There's this dip recent because of maybe a role elevation that the person is not yet adapted to or something else, right? And people have different skill sets. There's always, if the intent is right, if the attitude is right, there's always opportunity to redeploy talent in a role which is more suitable for their current temperament and current fitment, etc. So that's something that we do. But for the individuals that are coming in, of course, you can never have an individual with 100% ticks compared to the job description, right? So we generally have a core set of skills that are must-haves, and there are some skills that are good to have that we jointly align on. And the must-haves is where we don't compromise. But for the must-haves or for the good-to-haves, we can take a joint decision on where and when we need this individual, how urgent this requirement is, what sort of fitment we have with the organization, that we go from there.
Sure. Coming to transformation, digital transformation, and what we talked about in your work, in your previous roles, right? You've come across any case where you're really excited about something, implementing some strategy, and then you hit a wall.
Oh, yeah.
Take me through some specific instance.
All the time.
What does that wall look
All the
like?
time.
Some example.
I don't think there's been any digital transformation where it's landed the way we want it to land. There's always unintended consequences, second order effects, that anything that you do that you don't anticipate, right? I'll take the example of the recent implementation we have done with your team, which is the Zeco AI recruiting tool. And when I came across it, I was like, okay, fine, we need this. And a lot of people felt the same way. But when we actually landed the tool, right, it was received in a very mixed manner. Some people were very excited about it. Some people were very scared of it. Some people tried to use it in a very different way. And that's something that we did not anticipate might happen, right? Some people fed the kind of question that they wanted to ask to the tool and said, you will only ask this, which defeats the whole purpose of having an AI tool in the first place. So this is where change management is very important. Change management doesn't necessarily mean that you just give something to people and then expect them to run with it, right? You hold their hand, you make them understand, you understand their incentives of using or not using this tool or this particular technology, and then you try and address those specifically, right? You explain what is the outcome that's expected. You make them a stakeholder in the journey rather than somebody who's been given something to execute. So that is something that makes transformation stick, in my opinion. Change management and governance. You spend 80% of the time worrying about technology and implementation, and only 20% of the time you look after change. I think it should be as high as maybe 60-40 or 50-50 in some instances. Change is the most important part. When people are involved, they will try to find 17 different ways to work around the situation while being compliant to the guidelines that we give you.
Yeah, I think with you, this might be even more complex because already a lot of things business might actually be thinking around what new HR initiatives you're bringing in. From a technology standpoint or from a culture standpoint. Was there any specific instance, if you can kind of share, where business, or let's say not even the business, right, the other stakeholders, legal or any other kind of stakeholders, kind of become a roadblock to what you're trying to do? And then how do you kind of navigate it? How do you ensure that things sail through?
Yeah, I think just staying in this example, I think we really love the idea of creating value at this funnel stage, right, early funnel stage. At the same time, maybe our organization was not fully ready, geared in terms of process and design. I think what works for us is do we really believe that this is going to add value? And the other thing is the idea of trying something, experimenting with something, willing to fail, but learn from that. That mindset was helpful because one can be, again, sit in the comfort or this excuse that, well, how am I going to scale this over 100,000 people? You don't have to.
Yeah.
Maybe you just take the small universe, as in my previous organization in Amazon, our Jeff Bezos used to say, you plant little saplings. Not everything will grow onto a big tree. You don't know which one is going to be a big tree, right? So you take this experimentation mindset and learning mindset, and learn and try there. I think once you do that, and which is what we did really, in which actually you are even more open to seeing things for what it is, right? Otherwise, if you have this binary feeling that it's a success or a failure, then you won't learn.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very, very important point. If I know that I'm allowed to fail, I will succeed much better. Not.
Yeah.
So that's something that's very critical. The psychological safety of and having the bandwidth to tolerate failures is very critical for any transformation to succeed.
For the viewers who are going to be leaders at your level soon, when such transformation fails, right? How should you navigate that? Who takes the responsibility? Specifically, let's say for an HR transformation when it fails.
Yeah.
Because there's business involved, business might have said that we don't need this, or let's say for whatever reason, or let's say there was some failure in terms of implementing something because of operational problems. Who should take the responsibility, and what should be done next?
Yeah, it goes back to the values that Amit talked about, right? That's where we have values and we lean on values. Integrity is one value, right? Then curiosity is another value, and trust is another values.
Sure.
So if you keep those values, if something that we were doing failed, I should look at what I had promised I will do and what did not go as per plan, and what could I have done differently, and I should be honest about it. That, hey, this is what I thought I had done and we were going to do, and it didn't work out. And if I do that, I think that's where you can take learning out of that experience instead of me being defensive. Right? There are examples where we might have run a training program, or we might have started some framework in HR hoping that this is really good. We might have also aligned on that. But then, like Amit said, transformation is a lot of change management. Just because you thought it's a great idea, it doesn't mean it's all good. Then we do a debrief and say, it didn't work out because this is the 3 things that we got it wrong. So I think honesty in accepting your part and willing to learn from that is a key ingredient for anyone as a people leader.
Sure.
to take learning from that.
Okay, let's get to a further deeper onto the organization's working, particularly again with respect to the common theme that we are sharing today. When, let's say, a lot of organizations where people leave saying that there's not enough opportunity for us. On the other hand, for the exact same role, there would be HR hiring external people. So what should actually be the right way? Where is it the business problem to not show the visibility, or is it the HR problem to actually kind of identify internally before you get out to the external market?
Well, it's not about internal or external. It's about the fitment for the role and the readiness for an individual to take up that responsibility, right? So by design, we don't have a preference for internal versus external candidates. Of course, internal candidates have a lot of institutional knowledge, right? But if somebody is a fit, they are a fit. It can be an external or an internal candidate.
Okay, so the question is more around, let's say, for a specific role that business is hiring for. We're going to HR saying that, hey, we need this person. At the same time, for the same role, somewhere, someone else was actually leaving, not for the same role, for some other role. Someone else was leaving saying that, hey, I would ideally want a role like this, which you just told the HR to kind of hire for.
So that goes back to the fitment question, right? If the individual in question, if he was a serious, if he or she or they were serious contenders for this role in terms of fitment, capability, etc., they definitely get it. Right?
Whose responsibility is to get that visibility out to the team? So
I think that there are processes that organizations should have, which is transparent and says these are the opportunities we have in this organization. Like, for example, at Schneider, we have an open talent market.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
So open talent market is exactly that we publish all the internal positions.
Yeah.
And it's visible to the whole world.
Okay.
And I can go and check the role and see if I have an aspiration.
But doesn't that lead to low stability within a certain team where...
Well, that's the trade-off we are willing to pay in order to uphold one of our propositions that we believe in talent mobility.
Yeah.
We believe in people moving around. If people move around inside Schneider, if one of my team members wants to work in Amit's team, I should be okay to feel that short-term pain in order for Schneider to be an employer of attractability.
Sure.
Because people come to companies to get diverse experiences.
Sure.
In fact, I'll flip the question that you had. So I don't get looked at as, hey, I have attrition in my team. If people from my team are finding better opportunities, there are significantly more exposure, more responsibility, etc. I'm looked at as a talent exporter. I don't get looked at as a guy who's losing his team. So
Correct.
that's a very positive thing that we practice at Schneider.
Sure. One question to Amit on behalf of Subhasis and his team. When you're actually writing job descriptions, I'm actually discussing hiring tips. Right? When you're writing job descriptions, be very honest about it and perhaps try to give an idea of percentage. When you're creating a job description, how often you're actually pointing out that this is what exactly I need versus actually just describing the last person who did well in the role?
No, and full honesty, I think it's more of the latter, right? It's the reflection of the person who was playing that role. And in fact, it's also the reflection of what we need now. It's sometimes we don't even, the job descriptions do, and I'm not saying we are guilty of this. The whole industry is guilty of this.
Yeah.
What's going to come, how this role is going to evolve is also very important to write in the job description so that we know what kind of individuals we have, if this thing matches with their aspirations. So, and many times we tend to do this job description as a shopping list, right? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this.
And throw everything in there.
Throw everything in because we know, I don't think we will get...
You're admitting that.
It's a standard thing that we do at industry. I don't think I've seen any job description where we have had candidates that ticks all the boxes, but that's the trade-off that we're willing to take. That this is something that we need 80% of it, you're fine with it.
Sure. On similar lines, right? AI is actually changing the entire talent supply market, and this 53% skill deficit in India on AI skills. At what point in time, specifically AI or otherwise, during the hiring process, do you really acknowledge and accept that, hey, there is actually a talent deficit in the market, and how often do you use that as just a bahana or just an excuse where you know that, hey, we have not done well, but let's go ahead and say there's talent deficit and we're not able to cut down on your expectations?
It's a good question. That's a really good question. Yeah, it's a pretty evolving situation, and I know that it's very hard to find a candidate talent meets all the boxes, checks all the boxes, and particularly in these times. So, as Amit pointed out, I think we definitely have our list of things that it must have, the candidates must bring, and what we are willing to teach, learn, what mindsets are we willing to bring into our organization. I think that's where we are evolving our own thoughts, honestly.
I think good to have, must to have is what I think.
Yeah, that's a concept.
Yeah. And we definitely paying a lot of premium on what we call as a culture. You call it culture fit or mindset, or the traditional word soft skills. Over a period of time, I think we were a lot more emphasizing the hard skills, the technical skills. But in today's world, it's equally important to have those human skills. I actually call them human skills, which will determine how a talent succeeds or fails in the future. Because the hard skills, to an extent, we can also learn and coach, but the human skills are very hard to develop.
What's maybe book for both of you, right? What's your strategy for hiring in future for the skills which do not exist today? Any specific pointers on how are you making sure whatever you're hiring at Schneider remains relevant for next 2 to 3 years and beyond?
Sure. So I'll take the AI example that you mentioned, right? So everybody that we hire from now onwards is going to be, we're going to check the AI native angle to it, because the nature of work is fundamentally shifting, right? If you look at it, AI is going to be another factor of production. Earlier, it used to be at all levels. It used to be, you now have people drawing salary, delivering work. Next year, we might have AI drawing salary, right? In terms of token budgets or AI budgets, and delivering the same amount of work that a human might deliver. So the hard skills that Subhasis spoke of, they get commoditized more and more. AI can write code, AI can generate specifications, AI can do a whole lot of things. But there is a human that needs to be always in the loop to check on what AI is doing, to orchestrate what AI is going to be delivering for ourselves, for our customers. So that AI native skill is what we will look for in any kind of hiring that we will do
Calling
going
it
forward.
AI fluency.
AI fluency.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to an interesting part, and you need to kind of just speak it out, whatever comes to your
sure.
mind first, and it's going to be a rapid fire round. Strategy or culture?
Culture.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
You need to finish this sentence. HR would be taken more seriously if it stopped doing what?
If it stops being a fixed mindset.
Oh wow, interesting. Yes. The business side would get better outcomes if it starts doing what?
If they always had people in their equation.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Anything to add?
No, I agree with that. Like I said, I don't think we disagree on a lot of topics.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I agree with
So
that.
the company anywhere in the world that has actually cracked the business HR relationship, one name, except Schneider.
I think Schneider is up there at the top.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I think Apple is maybe one example there. There's a very good HR and business relationship. I don't think they have overhired during this whole post-COVID surge, and they have not done any layoffs that I know. So Apple maybe.
Yeah, I would say Schneider. I've been here only, this is my second year, but Schneider is definitely up there. Not just because I worked there, but I was really been blown away by how, as you saw in this experience, how much aligned the business and HR are.
Sure. Any names except Schneider?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was thinking, Pixar is this movie studio, which is a part of Disney where I used to work. It's a small studio in Northern California, which has produced some of the best animated movies in the history of animation. It's kind of the cradle of creativity. And at its best, I think it brought amazing people practices, creativity into the organization fabric. So I would say, and he mentioned Apple, so the connective tissue is Steve Jobs in both these cases, because he founded Pixar as well.
Oh, wow. Should learn more for everyone who's working this. I think we should read more
Yes.
about his way of working. What percentage of time does the business and the HR actually agree behind the closed doors, but they just perform disagreements in public?
That's funny.
It's pretty high, I guess. And it's significantly north of 60% for sure. That's what I feel. I don't know what Subhasis feels.
Yeah, no, I think, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there should be no asymmetry between the two. If they're agreeing, they should be agreeing both behind and outside, and the disagreement should be the same. And I don't think.
Yeah.
So I'd like to reduce the asymmetry.
Okay, so you agree that there is asymmetry.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so if one of you had to do the other person's job for next 6 months, what would be the first thing that you would change?
I cannot do his job.
Same thing. I think that there's a reason we have this setup, and there is a reason we have that tension
No,
that we spoke of.
But still, I think you can't skip this question.
I don't know. Maybe the only thing that I might add to it instead of changing what HR team does is infuse more AI native tech chops in the ranks. Right? Currently, I think we are kind of ahead of much of the organization in terms of understanding what AI can or cannot do. Maybe that's where I'd like the team to also catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure. How about you?
And I would put, because these guys are in tech and transformation, I would be very greedy to kind of put more tech-driven human insights and how we can incorporate it in their business routines, because that'll be really cool too, because they have access and they're tech people, so they have an amazing way to kind of glean insights from the data. So I would love to incorporate that mechanism.
Okay, so now for you, one thing that you think HR does that wastes a lot of business time that it should not be doing?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of processes which could be actually simplified. We go to business for many things throughout the year. There may be, you could cut down on all those things and do it like less number of time. whether it's performance management or talent development. We keep going back to them for different things throughout the year. So I think there's a lot of waste there. We could be smarter about it.
Sure. One thing strategy does that creates the most unnecessary human cost.
Strategy does. Okay. No, I think there's not one straight answer to this. And nothing comes to my mind.
You'd want to answer?
I think I've been probably sound like a broken record. And we just literally answered that rapid fire question, right? Strategy or culture. If only strategy could incorporate culture in its equation.
Wow.
That's true.
Great. Okay, I think in the last segment that we're going to have, we're going to talk a bit about both of you individually. So from sort of transformation that you've done to being on the other side of it, actually executing. So a lot of consulting on the transformation that you've done, to being on the other side of actually executing that transformation, right? What has turned out to be wrong that you were doing earlier, you wish that you've kind of not done that?
So I'll talk about consulting. What I was doing, consulting was very unsentimental.
Okay.
It is like you would look at data, you would look at patterns, you would look at technology, you would draw conclusions, and you would recommend that the client does X, Y, Z without much thought about how it's going to land there, how it's going to be taken, right? Because the data showed the patterns, the data showed the outcomes, and the unsentimental, hard way of doing things is what consulting taught me. But when you are at the other end, right, when you are actually executing things, it doesn't really go many times the way you want it to go, right? People, like I said, people find different ways of using it. People have different incentives. Some people might get scared and twist it the way they don't, so that it doesn't work, right? So managing that aspect of it and making sure that gets incorporated in the overall strategy that you get recommended, right? That is critical. And that's what I've learned to navigate. I also now hire consultants to deliver some strategy work for us, but I am actively involved in making sure that this softer aspect of how it's going to land is a part of the strategy and not something that we think after we have done.
That's a good one.
Sure. Subhasis, to you, you've spent over 25 years in the most demanding companies of the world. What do you think when you started your career or during the initial years, one thing that you think about HR that was just very naive or you were just wrong about it?
Yeah, I think obviously HR has evolved a lot over the last 2 decades, 2.5 decades that I've been working. I think it's kind of complementary to what Amit was saying. Like he discovered the importance of sentimentality in incorporating into strategy. I would say we can also mechanize human aspects in HR. A lot of times, HR spends, because it's about humans, we are afraid to scale things in a more mechanized ways. And over the years, particularly at Amazon, I learned how you can also be people friendly but mechanize the processes so that you can scale culture as well, right? Because culture, we can hide in the excuse that culture is nebulous, you can't touch and feel, there's no data, therefore we don't need to, programmatize it, right? Whereas there are ways in which you can pull insights, data from human aspects that applied in a scientific way can actually scale. So I think that's what I've learned to appreciate.
In fact, this was the next thing that I'm going to do to ask both of you do together to create a mechanism, not a principle. Maybe after some discussion here, one thing that you think could actually redesign the ideal relationship between the business and the HR, some mechanism which you can kind of propose or kind of talk about, which would actually lead to better coordination between the two teams and eventually the better business outcome.
Yeah, one of the things that I always find wanting and not having is a ongoing ways to understand how people are doing, right? Because we have these processes which are like every 6 months or whatever. But let's say we are hiring a lot of people, and then we don't know how they did and what happened to them, right? And then we keep thinking about making the hiring process better. So if there was a better loop of a constant signal that's coming between the organization and HR of, hey, these people came and this is, like, imagine a dashboard that's giving you some insights on an ongoing basis.
How can this be?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the jointness of it is what I was also thinking about. To know and to understand how people are doing. I'd like to be co-located with HR for some part of the week, right? Currently, we sit on different floors. We interact, of course, quite a lot in meetings, but that human connect, when you're co-located, you are jointly discussing topics, a lot of things come up. So the jointness of it, the co-location, making sure that we have each other's ears, that will really help surface more insights than a formal setting where we all get together and discuss agenda.
True.
Right now.
How can you actually
co-create more.
kind of implement, or I'm sure we're just kind of brainstorming, but operationally implement on what he's asking for or he's kind of suggesting? How do you get to know the people who joined you, whether they're performing well, they're up to the mark, what's missing? And that too at a regular interval, especially during the first 6 months, I assume, right?
Sure. So we can start with something as basic as HR on the floor, right? Just have a Friday pizza with the HR. Why not? Let's just get people together if there are concerns to be shared, if there are updates to be shared, right? From both sides. Why not have that kind of a connect? In fact, that's what I do with my
With
HR.
the manager or with the joinee?
With all of them. That's what I do with my HR rep, right? One of Subhasis reportees that I work with. We have a stand-in connect every Wednesday where we talk about things. We meet every other 2 weeks, and we also meet the team every quarter. So maybe that's something that we can have repeated across the organization to make sure that we have the pulse.
Sure. So I think this has been a wonderful conversation. Few things that I think for viewers to definitely take away is to see what value is the other party actually creating for you, and what value you can actually ask the other unit to kind of get. I think that's the biggest takeaway, because a lot of times what we see is we actually get to understand business versus HR kind of role, but this is about what is it that I'm doing wrong where HR can fit in well versus what is it that HR teams can think that we would need a lot of business insights. I think wonderful conversation, both of you. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
No, you asked some great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.